right. Even though it's a test. And, oh, there, I'm back.
I just wanted to make sure the line out level was at negative 30.
Okay, and here's our clacker. I should have left the hood open. Typical Jeep formation.
Cool, that works.
Okay. Now, test 2, 3, 4,
11,
3,
16.
2, 9, 27. Bingo!
Abracapocus. Pocus cadabra.
Walla walla bing bing.
Nope, something like that. Boop.
Now it's going to be where it's like what? We got a blinking red on facing me. Got a blinking red facing you. Yep, good screen there. Are the recording?
I went ahead and hit the button this time.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hey, Patreons. Got a sync.
There you go.
We got sync.
Jeep hood is up.
Jeep hood is down, so we are ready to rock and roll. Show 77.
Yes. We want to take just a quick little minute out. Hopefully you'll hear a better sound quality this time.
Well, we're experimenting. We've been kind of going through all the bins of gear, of cameras and different cables, and as you can tell, it's kind of messy here, but if we figure this out and pretty well get standardized, maybe it'll be a little better for you.
Exactly.
And I know it'll be easier for me to edit the videos if I only have to deal with a main track with an already embedded soundtrack rather than trying to sync it all up so you don't see the mouth.
Exactly. So with that, thank you for everything, guys. We're going to go ahead and get started with the podcast here in a second. Just a quick little thing up. Kevin and I are going to be looking at starting. You'll start noticing before anybody else the hashtag Dirty30, and that's going to probably be our first official tier. You guys are the first unofficial tier. Other good thing is stickers are coming along nicely. We've gotten a lot of them done already. So again, we'll have this out in the mail hopefully before you guys get this.
And here's a teaser for those that get their stickers. Look close. There were some errors and omissions in what's called weeding.
Yes.
And we've decided they're going to go ahead and go that way, and that just makes them more valuable.
Exactly.
You know, just like the stamp with the airplane upside down, and the mountain upside down. You're gonna have some of the original hand done stickers, not sent out to some foreign land to do in bulk, but these are being done
in the living room of my coach at the moment.
So
cool. Well, with that, we're ready to start?
Yeah, I think we're ready to start. I have no idea what we're going to talk about today.
Neither do I. We're going to wing it.
All right.
That sounds good. Okay.
Don't we always?
Exactly. Settle. Oh. Hey folks, welcome to another edition of On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. I'm Scott, your slapstick parts guy that has no idea what's going on, and Kevin's pointing his finger at me. If you're a Patreon viewer, you'll be able to understand what's going on. But other than that, Kevin, how are you doing today?
I am a little tired, but fine, as you well should know. But folks, those that don't know, I'm Kevin, the engineer, the general Jeep tech guy, the one who's played with Jeeps since I was 16, back when garages had dirt floors, but still do in some places.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've been changing Jeeps tires before they had tires, and you would pretty much reshoot a horse.
Well, I don't know about the first one, but the second one's true.
Yes.
I have played with the original four-wheel drive. It's actually more four-hoof drive, but, the original Jeep was,
four hooves.
Four hooves. Anyway. What we ought to do is get back to our intro.
It doesn't matter if you're on a horse or a four-wheel drive. We will ask you to.
We will share what worked for us as well as what didn't, like Scott's intro.
Exactly. Fumbled that
but remember, it's really up to you. You need to choose what you want to do with your Jeep. So, as we always say, do your research, read the instructions.
And please follow them.
Really, follow them.
And take your time.
Take your
time.
Yeah, unless you're hanging on the side of a cliff and the thing slowly crumbling, or the snow is melting and the Jeep slowly sliding down. If you want the drama. But, in general.
Then it's okay to have a sense of urgency.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But the rest of the time, haste does usually mean you do it twice.
Yes.
That's one of those interesting laws of Jeepism.
Haste makes waste.
Well, no, I was going to say there's never enough time to do it right, but there's always enough time to do it over and over. And over. And then go pay somebody to do it right.
Exactly. So as you can
tell,
I'm
running high on cynicism and low on common sense today.
It's all the heat.
It is.
Well, welcome to show 77.
77, and obviously we survived Dorian.
Yes, we did. Speaking, I'm glad you brought that up.
Anticlimactic. Dorian's kind of going, I'm full of Bahama.
No, actually, I think that one Facebook post said it correctly. We actually internet bullied Dorian away.
Well, that could be. But no, first off, despite all the joking, thoughts and prayers to those out in the Bahamas.
Yep, and the Carolinas.
And the Carolinas. But, to see the eye, we were watching it here and was watching the storm, and I thought it was going to trip on the Bahamas, which is a common term in the hurricane world, where it kind of loses power.
Yeah,
it didn't trip; it got its foot stuck. It hung around for 8+ hours.
Yeah,
just churning, and then it decided it'd mosey. I couldn't. You don't think of hurricanes moseying, but this one decided to mosey north.
Yeah.
About a mile an hour. And then the collective hatred of Florida got on its backside. I'll say it nicely. And you notice, and it was 2, 3, 4, 15, 16. Yeah. And then it starts going, I hear South Carolina is nice and friendly compared to Floridians.
Well, like the other post said, just because this is Florida, just because it has its blinker on doesn't mean it's going to turn. So with that, again, our thoughts and all that do go out. But there was that one red Jeep out in Myrtle Beach.
And then did you see the meme after that of just put it in a bag of rice and give it a couple of days?
Yeah, it'd be fine. Yeah.
I'd like to see how big a bag of rice you could do. It'd be an interesting experiment.
That's one of the things, like when I talk about like the whole idea of social media again. Mm-hmm. It's interesting how we all can latch on to something like that. Mm-hmm. And you kind of mentioned it a little bit where even you can have the best, most capable four-wheel drive vehicle, but the minute that this thing gets in incapable hands, you can get stuck. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what you drive. You can put an incapable driver in a rock crawler, a rock bouncer, and chaos ensues.
Yeah. Well, and it's been said many, many times that do you need four-wheel drive in this day and age? Not really. You only need four-wheel drive to get you out of places that four-wheel drive will get you into.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
as far as day-to-day driving, you don't need it. I want it, but I don't need it.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But it works for me, bless you. As he tries not to blow the microphone off to the side.
To be honest with you, between that and blowing my shoes off, come on, I'm wearing nothing but socks right now.
But no, I won't go there.
Well, that's just because they're covered in horse. But
yeah, well, that's something, folks, that Scott came out. You've heard me talk before about the farm that I go out and work at, and it's a small horse farm. They stable and pasture about 30 horses.
Yeah.
And it's a very nice facility, but the weather and the good weather, the bad weather doesn't matter. Florida here, anything made of wood tends to slowly disappear, turn into some sort of fungus and go away. So we're building a new structure, and this time we're trying to make it last a little more than 8 years. And so long story short, we're putting a concrete slab in, a fairly significant one, because this is a storage slab that's going to have 18-wheel dump trucks back up with supplies on, and then dump them, so you're going to have this huge load come slamming down. And the last one, survived a while. As I said, when we built it the first time, his materials, it's kind of like kitty litter for horses. It's shavings, pine shavings. They were delivered in a pickup truck, and two guys shoveled it off with forks. And so we built a bin out of 4x4s and 2x6s, and it lasted. And then he moved up to the guy who started delivering it. As they got more horses, they needed more. So then they went to somebody who delivered it in a single axle dump truck. And the bin would kind of shake a little bit when it unloaded, but it was still doing pretty good
for the most part.
And then they got to the double axle dump trucks, and now he's into the semi dump trucks that show up. And the poor little shed just started leaning backwards every time the load slide off and slam into that back wall, and it just kind of went a little more back, a little more back, a little more back, a little more back. Until it kind of went a little more, crunch.
Yeah.
So we are now putting it on a 6-inch slab with steel reinforcing. And Scott was like, I want to see how that works. I've never, I see it every day. I drive on concrete, but he's like, this will be different.
Yeah.
So Scott came out, and we put up the last couple of form boards and graded it, he's kind of trying to figure out what I was doing with the grading. It has a tapered entrance ramp.
Yeah,
that disappears in the ground.
The math in my head hurt.
It did. But I tell you what, he's a whiz at tying rebar. Because we put, when I said, well, put it on the chair. And he's looking around going, I don't see a chair.
Yeah, come on, man. That's not fair to me. It's like if I tell you, hey, grab me a bag of CB-47's burnt.
Yeah, exactly. And so long story short, he's a whiz at tying rebar. Gave him the little hook tool and the pre-bent tie wires, and he went to town. And
it's a metal zip tie.
Yeah, you know what? It is. It is a metal zip tie. I should have figured he'd be absolutely
in my wheelhouse.
Skilled for that.
It's in my wheelhouse. And to be honest with you, when it comes to metal zip ties and little things we use on the show, like a euphemism, is the correct word I'm looking for? Is euphemism?
Yep.
One of our listeners sent something to me.
Is that why you're texting and talking at the same time? I should be taking that away.
I'm trying to look up because I want to make sure I get his name right. But he sent us Brian sent me a message basically saying, hey, Scott, you should take a look at this. A unit of measurement regarding time and usually torque, often found in automotive store mechanics, garages, and redneck tractor pulls, ugga-duggas can be counted infinitely, but it is commonly understood that 5 ugga-duggas is a maximum for torque, while 3 ugga-duggas is sufficient to hold most projects. So I have been vindicated that it's an ugga-dugga of the air gun. Thank you, Brian. And with that, back to Kevin.
I have absolutely no response for that other than, have you been using ugga-duggas for working on your Jeep?
I have no idea. I haven't touched much of my Jeep. Okay. And when I have, you've been the one there.
Then I still feel safe, because if you're doing it by ugga-duggas, remind me to drive.
Well, that's the thing.
That's right up there about. Yeah, you just twist it till it squeals.
Well, I did break off 2 things of wire while tying the rebar.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's good and tight. Good and tight.
Yeah, the German
specification. So, so Scott got a little non-Jeep related information, but that's always useful because you kind of get a feel for handling steel and tying bar, and we'll finish that project up and take care of, as I always say, the original 4-wheel drive. Yeah. Trying to take care of those critters. In the meantime, he came in and he stopped cold. He saw the garage door open, and he saw the orange extension cord coming down from the ceiling.
Well, this is when we got home.
To the little box, and he's like, slightly altered. What? It's on a battery charger? Oh my God, what?
It's on life support.
It's on life support. I said, no. Folks, I got a new recovery vehicle. Finally came in, special order from our friends at Ford. They were willing to build me my truck. And So it came in, and I've been driving it because I had to put in a minimum number of miles. They call it break-in miles. And did we have a crash again?
We did.
Oh, crud. So we'll wind back to this.
That's fine. I don't know when it stops. So. Keep on.
So anyway, I got a new tow vehicle after getting rid of my F-350, and I wanted a very specific one for Ford, and they were willing to build me my desired hauler.
Yeah.
And Scott's ridden in it, and he's managed to pull the seat cushions out of his fanny.
Yeah, it is a pucker factor of 3, especially when again you had the 500-mile tattletale, but no,
I didn't pucker you until after I'd passed 500.
Yeah.
It's an F-250, just for those that are curious. And I realize it's not a Jeep, but it is the vehicle that tows my Jeep around when I'm going to longer events and want to do crazy things with it, so that I know I can get home. That's one of the requirements from the my side of the financial department is we can go to a lot of Jeep events. She's cool with that. She thinks it's a lot of fun, but she always wants to come home. So
coming home is good.
Coming home is good. So it's unique. It's the first time that Dearborn actually called me after receiving the order paperwork, and we're like, "Sir, about your order, is this really what you think?" And I had to talk with an order agent, and they were very nice, and they were like, "This may be one of one, sir." And I said, "I'm okay with that." And what it is, it's an F-250. It is the 6.7 turbo diesel. It does have the trailering package and heavy-duty suspension package, which puts it up in the stratosphere as far as capability. But it's also a 6.5-foot bed and only an extended cab. It's the shortest wheelbase that they will make.
And two-wheel drive.
And two-wheel drive, not four-wheel drive. Down here, four-wheel drive is not necessary for a tow vehicle. This is a highway rig, and I know, I don't want to waste the fuel and the weight. And he basically said, well, I can't. I said, so what is my gross vehicle weight? What is it? Not combined, but you just
GVW or something.
Yeah, GVW. And he said, "Well, sir," he said, "I can't tell you actually what it is, but your tag is going to say just a straight 10,000 because that's the maximum for the class." And he says, "Between you and me, it's going to be well above that, but it's 10,000." And I said, "Thank you." And he says, "Now you understand that your power to weight ratio is going to be." I said, "Stupid." He said, "Well, I wasn't going to use that term." I said, "I do." And yeah, that works for me.
This is going to be fun.
I like that 3-letter word.
Yeah.
It is fun. It is 940 or something like that. It's just a tick under 950 foot-pounds of torque.
Right.
450, a little under 450 horse in a short body, short bed truck.
Well, you joke about the Suicide and a Half show with our other friend Jeep. You kind of almost got that with your truck.
I do. You know what? I'll take that moniker and run with it, literally. Try and catch me if you can.
Yeah, we always joke about, it takes usually 15 to 20 minutes for highway patrol to catch up. So.
Yeah, well, that works for me. It works for me. And it's out-rigged with all the towing capacity. I can put my flatbed on the back. I can tow a horse trailer if my daughter's going to an event. I can, move all kinds of things. It's fully equipped with all the gewgaws.
Yeah, well, and another thing, too, not only your truck's been happening the past couple of weeks, but obviously... we let the cat out of the bag about the 102.5 thing. A lot of listeners contacted us that. But one listener, I don't know if I want to talk about it in the garage segment, but about re-gearing and how important re-gearing can be with this TJ.
Mm-hmm. I wrote him a little dissertation.
Yes.
Which became a running joke with everybody going, this was another, these are more college credits, huh?
Exactly. And yes.
You guys like answers. I try to give you real solid answers.
Well, and that everyone has always said, thank you. That's really detailed. That's information. That's the kind of stuff that's needed to safely do things. You know what I mean? Like when you researched and did your truck, you knew what you wanted. and sometimes they don't have the answers, but they'll go ahead and, at least give you the best information.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we love the interaction between you guys. And, again, a lot of people reached out, make sure we were okay with the hurricane. What can we do?
And appreciated. Very much appreciated.
The guys over at Trail Chasers again sent us a personal message, want to make sure we're okay. And for those of you who asked how to help, of course, get with your local Jeep groups about donations to the Carolinas, the Bahamas, whatever. Yeah, help out that way.
That's the best way to help out there. So we're good here.
Yeah.
I didn't even get as much rain as I expected, and so we are. Like I say, it was a non-event over here on the west coast of Florida. The east coast had some wind damage, but not even heavy wind damage as far as that went. It didn't. Dorian really didn't cut into the coastline until the Carolinas.
Yeah.
And fortunately didn't go deep.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the Bahamas, particularly Freeport, they just got hammered. So either location, I noted a lot of the clubs were posting that they're working with shippers and with people with private aircraft to collect various goods to send to them. And as usual, I'm not going to tell you what to send. Money is always good. Money is kind of universal. It will pay for anything that's needed. But if you really want to give something, take a look online. There's all kinds of organizations that are posting it. Jeep organizations are listing things that they're being told are needed. So you can definitely help out that way.
Well, that's one of the things that food banks keep talking about is that they can buy with $1 food more. With $1, they can buy more food than you can donate for $1. Because they buy in bulk. So money, again, a lot of people say, I don't want to give money. Money is actually a good thing to give.
Yeah, it's also very easy to document and take off your taxes. Not to be greedy about your personal status, but that's one of those things that you can do.
That's a win-win.
But either way, appreciate everybody's thoughts, cares, prayers, well wishes. We are fine, and obviously back on the radio, talking about Jeeps.
Exactly. Well, speaking of talk about Jeeps, you want to take a quick little break and then come back and do a little garage segment?
Sure.
All right. Well, we'll be right back after these quick and, I guess, something kind of messages.
Usually informative will work. So
exactly. Hey guys, just a little quick check up as usual. Don't forget the 4x4 Radio Network. Again, Tony and at the Jeep Talk Show and all that. We'll actually have a guest speaker, I guess, for a little bit with Jeep Mama being gone for a little bit. Also, again, the Trail Chasers, 4x4 Podcast, Center Steer, all those guys. Check them out. 4x4radionetwork.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's going to screw me up with my background. But hey, it is what it is. Is it battery power that's dying? No, the screen looks good. Capacity for read-write.
The read-write capacity of the chip.
Okay.
And this is only an 8 gig chip. So we've...
we got the intro shot.
Hold on one second. Okay, we did 20 minutes and the chip's almost empty.
Okay. Well,
so I wanted to stop so we can see what we had, so we can offload this data real quickly, and then that way we saved it.
Okay.
And then we can clear it out and then put it back on.
Yeah, we'll have to get you a good large chip because I really like the quality.
Well, that's what sucks. This is a 32 gigabyte chip, but it's not fast enough.
I don't even buy large ones anymore because I don't own anything that. So let's see what we got here.
Oh.
Yeah, see, it's already popped it into pieces, which is fine.
You want me to stop this? The rose?
Yeah, we can pause them. That's true. Yep, we got red blinky light.
Buffer, okay. I'm getting good at these red blinky lights.
You do? You got them all on?
Yes, I got them all on.
And I'm probably going to leave this in for the Patreons. Why not? We paused it because as we set up this video, and this won't be in the audio, but this will be in the video, folks. We don't have a big enough chip in the big camera.
Yeah, so it kind of buffered a little bit, so hopefully it doesn't cut at the end of the show off. So there may be a quick little break when we come out of the garage segment to offload the video again.
Yeah,
but
you may have to go do something real quick, and then we'll come back. But
this is important to us to bring you a quality product.
It really bugs him if it hesitates.
Not funny.
I thought it was.
Yeah, well.
Anyhow.
And welcome back to On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. I am Scott, still yet to be undetermined about being not to yes and no or possible maybe of being the slapstick parts guy, and sitting across from the table with his mouth aghast and his eyes going wide going, why me? It's Kevin, the engineer.
Yeah, that hasn't changed since the show. Remember, there's been a minute or three for us, but for them, it's instantaneous.
Exactly.
Okay.
So while we were going to say welcome back, we also want to say don't forget to check out Crawling for the Fallen. OffroadUnited.com has all the information.
Crawling for the Fallen.
Okay.
Are we doing
I'm having a fun moment. Okay, yes.
Crawling for the Fallen. Sorry,
I'm
Chrissy.
sorry, Chrissy. Moving on. So, again, off-road. Now you got me so messed up. Off-Road United has all the information. Or just Google Crawling for the Fallen.
Yes, and please.
No joking matter.
Well, the show is a lot of fun, so this is okay. The topic is very serious.
Yes.
You know, the families of fallen first responders. It's a great thing, and it's. I'm very happy that they do have a new event location so that it will continue unbroken for another year.
And two other quick little points of reference. We also have the SEMA show coming up.
Correct. We will be attending on your behalf.
Yes.
I wish we could get you guys tickets and bring you in too, but at the very least, we'll get you pictures and send you audio and find neat crap that we can talk about and show you.
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so am I.
But what I still want to know, and I've only had a couple of folks respond, is what should we look for? What do you want to see?
Yes. What do you want to see?
What do you want to see? And tell me about it. You know, is there some new product that you've heard about that we haven't? And that's probably highly possible. And we'll go sniff it out, find it, and see what we can get about it, and get you back the best information we can.
And maybe even interview. And the last bit of house cleaning, though, real quickly, is if you want to know what the hashtag Dirty 30 is, updates are coming soon, so check out the Patreon page and all of our social media.
You're such a tease.
I am such a tease. So, anyways, with that notion, I think it's time for me to hit a button. What do you think?
That works for me.
All right, hold on. Abracapocus. Okay, I hit the button.
You hit the button?
I hit the button. I make the button go boop.
Okay, let me see if I can actually find the...
So while Kevin's looking up the information we want to talk about, our buddy Riggs, we'll just call him Riggs. I think that was his last name.
Yeah,
no, it's Rick. Sorry, Rick, I got your name wrong for a second. He had a good question. If you don't want to say your last name, sorry, we'll edit this out at a later date. But just in case, moving on. Had a question about the regearing, and the reason why Kevin wanted to bring this up is because I'll let you take it, Kevin.
Well, because you guys keep bringing it up, and it has been a couple of years since we went through the gearing show. Not the gears have really changed much, but
they come around eventually.
Yes, they go round and round and round repeatedly. He's over here having a little happy dance.
I am. Go me, teeth mash.
Yes. So, anywho, on that topic, thought we'd revisit gearing a little bit since it seems to be a popular one. And, I realized that while we did it a couple of years ago, there's a lot of people listening that weren't here a couple of years ago. Yeah. Or, want the most current information they can. So we're going to kind of cover what we talked to Rick about a little bit. And, his idea was he wants to basically know, he's got a 2002, I believe it was. TJ. He's done a lot of work before. It's a 2002 TJ with a 3-speed auto and the 4-liter, and he's going to do a lift, but he's only going to run 33s. He's honest with himself. He's not planning to go out with the monster mutters or anything like that, and he's trying to figure out gearing. And he's looked at the charts, and he's done his own math and done it very well. And oh God, Scott has that look on his face.
Mud grip. That'd be a great Jeep name. The mud grip tires.
Okay,
moving on.
Moving on. But he just wanted some thoughts, about gearing. And, how do you choose? Particularly, I guess, what his target zone is, he's falling in the middle between two different gear sets. Yeah. So, and unfortunately, I have to say the nasty words, which is, what do you want to do with your Jeep?
Well, it's not nasty words. Our listeners have come to realize that is not a point of contention, but it's the,
it is the foundation for all of your reasonable, smart, intelligent, economical purchases, if there can be such a thing with a Jeep.
We have a Jeep.
Yeah, I know.
It's a bankruptcy starter kit, dude.
It is fair enough. I mean, I realized I made the mistake of looking at receipts and realized I've put more in the Jeep than I paid for.
Never added the receipts. When I added the receipts to my YJ, I went, I could have had a C-class payment for the past 6 years.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have had near as much fun.
You would have more power and air conditioning. I'll tell you that.
But you wouldn't have had as much fun, and you'd had more speeding tickets. You got to add in the speeding tickets.
You know, you can only sweat so much for 9 years, man. Come on.
You did well. So anyhow.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But again, common question, gearing.
Right, gearing. So the first question is, what do you want to do with the Jeep? And I mean, you have to be honest. Because the only person that you're going to fake out if you give a bad answer is you. Not me. You know, I can give you my best read on what you want to do, but it's really up to you. And I'll use, you know, myself as a reference point. You know, I got the TJ, the 05, and I had the 42 RLE transmission and the auto and air, and I was like, God, you know, this is fun. We went out wheeling a couple times with it stock here in Florida. You know, I'm a CJ guy, been back in the old days, and so here I am going into the modern luxury.
Exactly.
And the capability was great, but I still remember up in Citrus climbing the one hill with Bob spotting me. Yeah. You may remember that one.
Mm-hmm. And slip and slide.
The slip and slide, and I got crossed up, and I'm flying. And I have a tire flying, and so I'm losing, and literally cross up. I had one front wheel up and the opposite rear wheel up, and kept losing power. And so, you know, I had all these visions. Oh, God, I'm going to go to 35. No, 37. No, 30. I'm going to upgrade the axles.
I want 40-inch swapping tires. Yeah!
I don't think I ever went quite that far, but yeah, the general idea was correct.
You were having a yee-yee moment.
I was.
Okay.
And, you know, sitting there, and I started kind of being honest with myself. I said, okay, how many times am I going to go up there and be in that situation?
Right.
Now, if you're dedicated hard wheeler and you're out there all the time and that's your weekend pastime, that's one thing. At that time, I was still responsible for all of the stuff going on military construction in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So
you had bills.
My Jeep and I were driving from here to
a base.
To a base down south, a base over to the east, a base to the west, back up to headquarters up in Atlanta, and, you know, zippity-doo-dah on the highway. Yeah. And I'm going, okay, I need just to squeeze a half a mile per gallon out, please. You know, just something. Yeah. You know, Uncle Sam does provide some mileage expenses, but they weren't anywhere near what the Jeep was burning.
Yeah, like whoa. You only got 15 miles to the gallon. What are you driving there, Peterbilt?
Yeah. I wasn't getting 15 back then. So I had to sit down and be honest with myself. What was my predominant use of the Jeep? Unfortunately, it was a very sexy, but it was a highway vehicle. Yeah. You know, very capable highway vehicle, but I had to be honest. So I started looking at it, and I started going, okay, I do want some trail, and I do want the capabilities. My biggest problem was not my gearing, not my tire size. It was the fact that I opened differentials, you know. So
brace yourself. Math's coming.
I'm not going to go too deep into the formulas, but I basically was honest with myself that I really needed lockers.
Yeah.
All right. That was my biggest weakness. Now, if you're going to open your diff up to regear, or put lockers in. I was going to say,
what does lockers have to do with regearing?
If you're going to open the differential up, it is one of the areas, not unlike the transmission and the crankcase of the engine, where thousandths of inches matter.
Yeah.
Okay. Tolerances are extremely tight. It's not a place you want to go in twice or 3 times or 4 times or 5 times. Okay.
Hey, we just talked about that. Mm-hmm. About how it's there's never enough time to do it right, but always enough time to do it twice.
Yeah, at least.
I remembered something.
You did. I'm very impressed. Cookie. And so I'm going, all right, I need a locker, but I really should regear. What am I going to, you know, what's my happy balance?
Right.
And Scott will tell you, we had actually just met back then.
Yeah.
And I was asking everybody about their Jeep, what they did with their Jeep. I mean, I could figure most things out, but nothing beats hands-on experience.
You were doing your
people.
Research.
I was doing my research. And I came to the very same concept that Rick did, which was, you know what, 33s will get me through everything that I pretty much am going to handle. And better driving, will get you through the rest of the way if you just pay attention. And then the winch that was coming, it wasn't on the Jeep then, but...
And they're marginally cheaper.
Yeah, they really are. So I came along with that. Now, here comes the gearing story. So I said, okay, from a financial point of view, I'm going to put my lockers in at the same time and I'm going to do the gears so that I'm in there one time. Because gears wear in, folks. They mesh together and they seat is what it's called. But it's really the fact that they polish each other to match.
And that's where I'm going to step in for a little bit.
Yep.
We've seen this when it comes to the re-gearing question. People all the time go, well, wait a minute, man. Look, I'm trying to do this on a budget. And we get it. A buddy of mine's got old 410 gears out of his Rubicon. Should I go ahead and do those? Okay. No. And remember how I talked about the light bars? And I go, stop it. With the light bars on, no, stop it. Actually, I did that last night. Guy pulled out of the neighborhood with his light bar on. I turned my high beams off. He shut his light bar off and he honked at me. And I'm like, yeah, how's it feel, jerk? Anyways, but no, like
getting a little rambunctious here.
No, seriously though. Sorry, I just want to make sure the camera's still recording. The idea is that used gears are a bad idea because, like you said, they polish, they wear in, they're belted to the carrier, and they're made for that.
Yeah, they
you disrupt that. That's a bad juju.
It really is. Now, I know there's a bunch of you going, but you can reuse gears, but here's the catch: you have to do it so that you can match the original pattern as close as humanly possible. The proper way to reuse gears is to use marking compound just like you do with new gears and mark the pattern before you take them out of the other vehicle. And take pictures of the pattern. Is it a little bit shifted to one side? Is it a little deep in the valley? Is it a little bit, crescent shaped versus straight line? Look at the pattern. Try and get a picture of the pattern. Then when you reinstall them, try and make the new pattern match exactly as close as you... Does this sound like a lot of work?
Yeah.
It is. If you put them in any old way and just say, my backlash is good, the pattern's acceptable, but it's not the same as the old one, the gears are going to wear funny, they're going to whine, and they're not going to last very long.
Yeah.
It's a sad fact. So if you're going in the carrier, plus, it's just better to replace... and you're going to put a new carrier in, i.e. a locker, whether it's a selectable, or any other kind, and the gears, do it all at once. Now, you're going, but I can't afford that. Yeah, you can, because you're going to do it eventually, I promise you.
Yeah.
Just wait for it. Save for it, and buy. You can buy the gears and make yourself a little table in your garage or even in your house and put the boxes there. We had a friend that did that, and they were his motivation to continue saving. And okay, I'm going to skip beer night tonight and put that money into the locker fund.
Well, if you're in a Jeep group, someone there might know how to do lockers. Again, make sure you check references. I hate to say that,
you do,
but maybe you can trade work. Maybe they need some trees cut down. If you're candy with it, you know how to do it. It doesn't hurt to ask to trade work.
It doesn't. But the thing is if you're going in there, you try and go in there once and do it correctly. So. Gears, back to gears. We kind of did a little bit of a sidebar on that, but it's kind of important. If you're in there, don't cheap out. Replace the seals, replace the bearings, put in, you can reuse a carrier is okay, but, try and refresh while you're in there once.
Unless you're going from a 321 gear ratio, don't you have to change the carrier out?
It's actually, 373 is the break point in most of the axles.
Okay.
And there's actually, as weird as it sounds, there's a 370C small carrier and a 373 big carrier.
Oh boy.
And you have to open it up and measure. And what we're talking about, folks, is the diameter of the ring gear bolt surface is different in the different gears. And anybody, if you go on, you can find out very quickly. You can do a VIN research. You can go open the case up and measure without actually, and then just close it back up again. There's a lot of ways to find out, which carrier you have.
Yeah.
That's the other advantage of purchasing a match set of gears and a new locker altogether, because doesn't matter what's in your Jeep then.
Yeah, exactly.
Because your new set will work. Now, so we like I said, let me pull back on 2 gears. I was honest with myself, as I said, and I said, all right, I am going to run with 33s. I now started playing with what gear numbers, what RPM my engines would run in. Now, the i6 4-liter engine, basically power band runs from what's considered the cruising power band is roughly from 2,400 RPM to about 2,700, 2,800 RPM.
Yeah.
Anything above that, you're spinning faster, but you're not really producing a lot more power, but you're burning a lot more fuel. Anything below, and you're kind of lugging a little bit, but you're going to get better mileage to a point, but if you get too slow, then it's going to lug and you're going to get worse mileage. So the target is, let's see if we can get in there. And so I started looking at ratios, and I actually went to the point, I'm sorry to say, I actually designed a spreadsheet that you can put the tire diameter in there. After talking to some folks at the tire store, they were kind enough to let me know about what's something called tire squat. I'm sure you've seen it, you just didn't realize what it was. That's when you look at the tire from the behind or in front of it, you know how it's kind of bulging, it looks like it's a little low.
Yeah.
That's designed into the tire carcass of different tires. And so squat changes the rolling diameter. It actually makes it a little bit smaller than the published diameter. The other thing they showed me was just because this tire says it's 33 tall, it doesn't have to be. That's an approximate. I have realized that if you go to TireRack.com and look up the data, at least they used to, I don't know if they still do, their site actually gave you the true diameter of the tire, because what you need to do is figure out what the circumference, what one revolution of that tire, how far does it move your Jeep?
Right.
So you need to know the true diameter, and then you calculate the circumference. Well, that's number of feet per revolution, so that's feet per revolution. You can back through your gear ratios and go, okay, this is my feet per revolution, this is I want to go it over a given distance, Your gear ratio is a multiplier or divider depending on if you're working from the engine down to the wheel or the wheel back to the engine. If you have an overdrive like I do, you have to remember to add in your overdrive, 0.69 in my case. The 3-speed is a straight 1-to-1, so you don't have to do anything there. And you can easily calculate the RPM, the predicted RPM of the engine. And it's pretty accurate when you use the tire squat. That's what I found interesting on mine, is monitoring my engine RPM to see how close the calculations were, and they were within 10 to 15 RPM.
Sweet.
Now, what I discovered was that, all right, 456s were a little low. They were, with 33s, they were going to put me just under, barely, but just under 2,400 RPM. But 488s, were going to push me kind of high at the 2,700, 2,800. And I had to go, okay, do I want the higher RPM? Yeah, that'd give me a whole lot more grunt off the line and be a better trail gear. Or do I want the 456s, which were going to be a little more highway friendly, but a little more doggy off the line?
Right.
And I went back and forth probably a dozen times between the two, and I ended up choosing the 456s, particularly after one long trip that was a round robin where I left Tampa, drove to south of Miami, then up to the Space Coast area, and got done paying the gas bills, and so I opted for the 456s.
Right.
And I also knew that I had plans in the future for some power adders. Right. It took me quite a few years to get to them. We've talked about that before, the head change, the exhaust system, the intakes. Yeah. And I have now brought that power curve and broadened it. By the way, that's what power adders do, folks, is in most cases it widens the power curve. Yes, it may make it a little higher, but the key is the wider you can make that power curve, the more usable you are and the more variable you can be with your RPM. And so I went through the selections, I did calculations, I took notes, I made comparisons. Once I had those numbers, I went running back and talked to friends in the Jeep club I was in at the time and said, hey, what gears are you running? What tire sizes are you running? What's your engine RPM? What's your fuel mileage like? And so I finally got myself to the point where I said, okay, I'm going to go with Eaton E-Lockers. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm telling you they're the strongest, but they're very easy to install for me. they matched into the wiring of the Jeep, and we've talked about that on another show, how I actually mimicked the wiring and used a lot of the factory-built stuff for the Rubicon lockers by doing little adjustments and connecting wires that were there but not utilized.
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
I want to take a quick second. We're going to break for a quick second because I want to do some research because I have a question to ask you. I want to make sure I get it right, and I don't want to have a long pause while I try and do this.
Okay.
So we're going to be right back with a quick question.
You know, I can edit that out.
What's that?
I can edit that out, too. But, gotcha.
Because we're at the memory card's full.
Is it full?
Like 84 seconds of
Remaining.
yeah. So we'll just offload real quickly, and then that'll give us. Yeah.
Scott Cam.
Well, I'm going to stop this too real quickly.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to change out.
To camera.
I want to make sure I booped all the things.
Yeah. Well, how about 4?
All 4 things.
1, 2, 3, 4. Are we good?
No, we're not.
No, we're not. I see the message bar. We need to hang a mirror back there.
Well, I'm seeing the light blinking here.
Patrons, the background camera is having conniptions with the card. We're going to have to get a new SD card. Is it happy? For the moment.
Okay, yeah, for the moment it is. So with that, okay, I want to make sure Kevin had his RPM gear ratio calculator up. That way.
Yeah, what a big line. Okay. We were having some, actually not audio quality issues. We were having some camera issues, so Scott wanted to pause and fix the camera, and our Patreons will appreciate it since
Yes.
they get to see what when we're recording.
Well, we also get studio quality audio now in the recording.
Well, we that is true. So anyway, as I was saying before you went, I did try to pull all of the pieces together one time.
Right.
It took me the better part of a year and a half to save to the Jeep jar to be able to buy the gears once, and then I had to wait for another probably 4 months to arrange. As you mentioned, I got a friend. I have done a lot of work, but I had not set gears. So for me, that was a new learning to actually set my gears, and so I wanted a coach.
Yeah.
I understood it. I'd researched it. I'd read about it. It didn't seem impossible. I actually own the tools, which sounds
Right.
interesting. For other reasons, I've had micrometers and things like that. So it was one of those. All right, but I had a friend of mine who came over with me, and we attacked the rear gears, and with his tutelage, I did most of the work, and he's like, well, this is what it should feel like. And I'm like, okay, great. I understand feel, but I want to measure. And long story short, did my rear gears. And then because I knew I was going to replace the front axle, and I wanted to go a high pinion, there was no sense buying the carrier and the normal low pinion rotation gears, because high pinions turn the other way. So you need reverse cut, what they call reverse spiral gears.
Right.
So these are all little things that you have to do for your gears. Now, that doesn't even get into the ratio. Scott talked about it. I did bring it up on the screen here just for the moment since I have some issues on this. But the idea is that once you determine what you're going to do with your Jeep, for anybody that wants it, you can send us an email to onthetrailpodcast
At gmail.com.
gmail.com, and I will send you the Excel file. It's just something I threw together, but it does work. You enter the stuff that's in green for those that if you do get it, you fill that in. Just if you're doing a bunch of these and printing them out, you can remember what the heck that one was for. The yellow fields are fields where it needs to know 4 pieces of information for your calculations. One is the distance of the axle center line to ground. That's the rolling radius, not diameter, rolling radius. Okay. And axle ratio that you're looking at. So that's your gear set. And you're going to put it in there as a decimal. So,
I was going to say, you got 5.86 in there, man. What are you re-gearing, a space shuttle?
I was I was playing there. I was playing there at 4.56. Transfer case ratio. Why is that in there? Because you might want to know what you're doing with your in low range. So I put it into the formula. You can leave it at 1, which is high range, or you can what is it?
I have 4 to 1.
You have 4 to 1, and the rest of them are, what is it, 3?
2 to 3.
2 to 3.
231 is like 2.3.
Yeah, 2.31. And then your important one that everybody forgets is your transmission final drive ratio. And what is that in plain English? If you have overdrive. If you do not have overdrive, it's 1. Okay, that's because the engine goes straight through the transmission. 1 to 1. But if you have overdrive in your manual or your automatic, you need to know what that is. There's tons of websites out there. You can Google your transmission and say, hey, what's my final drive ratio if you don't know it? Yeah. And they'll tell you. And that just goes as a decimal. So in my case, it's 0.69. So it tells me that for the diameter, distance to the ground. I was playing with some really weird numbers in there.
Yeah, I would say 37. Is there something you want to tell me about slightly altered?
No, I was doing it for somebody else.
Okay.
I was trying to help them out. Yeah. So with 33s, that's 15, 16 and a half. And it's about 16 and a quarter is what it 2.5, Kevin, 2.5. And these are published at 33. And it will tell me that I've got about 1.5 to 1.5% squat, which is not bad. Okay. Right. And it's going to say that your perfect circumference is, just give you an idea of why you do it, is 103 inches per revolution. But in reality, with the squat, it's 102.1. So that's almost an inch and a half difference. And you go, well, what's that got to do with it? Well, over a mile and the number of times that your tire turns, that ends up being significant.
Right.
So that's why I do that. And from that, you get a little table, and it tells you 70, 65, 60, 55, down to 25, what your axle RPM is, what your drive shaft RPM would be, and your engine RPM. And the reason you have those is each one of those turns at a different speed if you have the various overdrive or no overdrive. And so to that end, for example, for me, it's telling me that it's 70 miles an hour. My axle RPM is 724 revolutions per minute. My drive shaft spinning at 3,300. Actually, 3,301.
That's moving.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens with low gears is your drive line starts spinning really fast. So that is like, okay, got to pay attention to your joints. And if you start to feel vibration.
Check for wear items.
Yeah. Well, if you start to get vibration, you may need to take it in and get it rebalanced.
Yeah.
Okay. Because lower gears mean higher drive line speeds. And then your engine, because I have overdrive, it's only turning at 2278. That's a little low. But, again, for me, cruising on the highway, it was a little low, but the Jeep handled it okay. It didn't downshift too much. Now that I've added power to it with the head replacement, the intakes, and all that kind of stuff, it goes, this is in my sweet spot.
It's very happy where it's at.
It's happy,
speed.
But that was part of that planning out the whole system.
Yeah.
And I will gladly say, in the last 5 years, I have not re-geared again. I have replaced a busted axle.
Whoops, sorry, I just kicked your camera.
Oh.
No, one of the things is that I hate saying one of those things. It's the questions keep getting asked a lot, which is good. Please keep the questions coming. But when people say, well, hey, what's the best gear for me? There really is no cookie cutter answer.
There isn't. And this is the challenge because somebody posted a mock question on one of the forums about what's the ideal Jeep build that you'd like to have. And I said, the miracle engine that will get, 400 horsepower, 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, and 50 plus miles per gallon.
They'll still find something snarky. It'll cost too much. It's made by Fiat.
Well,
it looks ugly.
It doesn't exist.
Well, I know.
Okay. Although somebody did tell me, well, you need the Ford diesels. And I'm like, I already own one. I have actually owned 4 of them now. Yeah. I'd love to fit it, but I might be able to squeeze it in the JK with a little bit of hacking and burning, but I'm not sure it'll fit in a TJ. Well, anyhow.
The side note, if you are looking at a JK, you have to do a programmer because you have to program your new drive revolutions and your what gear ratio and your tire size, because
the computer does all of these calcs that
and all of a sudden it starts driving and it thinks you're doing your drive shaft spinning at 3,300 RPM. It's thinking you're spinning out into a tree, and it'll shut you down in limp mode quick.
It will. So here's the point: it takes a little bit of math, and I know people get nervous with that. And again, if you want a copy of this spreadsheet, no warranties implied. It's free for all. You got to have Excel. But it's a simple little sheet, and it lets you play around. And I think that's the best thing in the world, is to sit there and open up the one of the catalogs and look at all the possible gear ratios, and put your tire size in there. And if you don't know what the squat factor is, just guess it around to take about 1 or 2% off of it, or go out to your friend's Jeep who runs the tires that you really like with the rims that you really like, and take a tape measure and go from the center of the hub down, and he's going to go, "What are you doing?"
I'm doing math.
You tell, "I'm measuring squat."
I'm action math.
And but it lets you fill in that information and then play with your gear ratios and say, what's that going to do? Then you can go online, and I've never had trouble finding this, and say, give me a horsepower and torque curve for mine was a 2005, Jeep with the 4-liter 6.
Yeah.
And there it was, plain as day. And then you can read the graph and say, okay, if I'm turning this speed, where am I on my horsepower curve, my torque curve? If I'm way down on what they call the slopes, which is either rising or falling, that's not real good.
Keep in mind, you also have to figure out that the engine has 100,000+ miles on it. Where do you live? A buddy of ours, Matt LJ, his Jeep was fine. He re-geared in Florida, flatland. He moved to Colorado. He didn't drive his Jeep much because he was like, it's not fun to drive. Yeah, it's always hunting. It's always starving for power.
So in that case, if you do live in the mountains, I would probably recommend going from, instead of the 456, to the 488s.
Yeah.
All right. Now, there's a lot of people, what about 513s? I said, well, 513s are fine.
That's what I run.
But you're running 35-inch tall tires.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can play with tire sizes with this little thing, and you'll go, oh, wow, that really brings the RPM down. The other thing is you're running the 3.8,
which makes most of its power in the higher RPM.
If you look at the torque curve and the power curve, and torque's probably more important. We're not looking at horsepower here to move the Jeep. We're looking at torque. You kind of you want to be up in that top peak, the upper 10% of where it peaks. There are engine builders out there that can give you all the particulars. I'm just trying to give you a broad brush. Yeah. But if you look at them, and we actually did this calculation for Scott when he was looking at his gears, he pretty much was sure he was going to go with 513s based on
asking questions.
I was going to say collateral data from people is going out and surveying. Well, which one? But we went through the calcs real quick. I says, well, let's look at the tires you want to run. And he was, okay, fun countries. And you're going to go, we looked up online. There was a squat factor. I did and found that. And here's your gear ratio. And then your torque curve. It's like, hey, puts you right there as close as we can get to the middle. Any other gear set kind of falls out. Yeah. It also helps kind of tweak your expectations. Yeah. I looked at mine and I'm going, okay, 2278. That's really low. It's not going to want to. It's going to settle in. I live in Florida, so being on the low end of the torque curve is fine. I think the biggest hill we have is 300 feet of climb. So, most of the freeway's dead flat. I'll live with it.
Yeah.
The few times I've driven it north into Georgia, people, you commented on several shows when we were up in the shows in Georgia, and how I was always zipping around, which you didn't see with the fact that my OD off switch was clicked. Yeah. And so I was tacking along at 3,000 plus RPM.
Well, that's the JK at 3.8 with 35-inch tires with the 513 gears is actually fun to drive. Yeah, I can get from 0 to 40 just to 45 miles an hour just fine.
Just fine.
Because I'm not racing a Jeep.
No, you are not.
Most of the public's not. Cough.
Some of us are a little bit twisted.
It's not really an orange battery charger meant to record out there. It's actually putting back the unobtainium in your Jeep. Low-flying SR-71 Blackbird.
It's not quite that bad. It's just because boy, I'm getting older.
This is where I have the glasses down, look at the camera and go, mm-hmm.
It's really not. It's just I also have the suspension set up that I can handle the curves. You can take your Jeep around the curves just fine.
Tire smoking, butt puckering,
the fact,
shredding.
Well, I just laugh. I can always remember Georgia mountains doing the curvy roads, looking back with Ron's Jeep.
No sway bars.
Roxy with no sway bars.
It wasn't. What if I had the thought she was going to die?
The body roll was phenomenal. And meanwhile, my wife and I are going...
Yeah.
So, uh-oh. I don't see any reflection at all. Battery die?
No, that was weird. First one's forward as much. You should wrap it up though.
So anyway, as far as it goes with your gear selections, this really is the key of doing your research. You have to understand what your driving style is going to be. Look at and be honest with yourself. How do I really use my Jeep 80% of the time? Or, if I want that 20% to drive, be willing to accept the fact that you're going to have some shortcomings, that you're going to be out on the highway and you're going to be tacking over 3,000 RPM. Now, the Jeep 6 will take it.
Yeah.
Okay, the i6 will take it for a while.
Yeah.
But you can start, adding quarts of oil per mile eventually, because your valve seals will wear out, and other things like that.
Not even on the trail. Speed brake things faster.
It does. So from that end, I realize this has been kind of a wandering dissertation on gear selection, but it isn't that hard to do. It's decide what you're going to use your Jeep the most for, where you want to be the happiest, and then take a look at the engine that you have. The torque curve will tell you, if you look at it in the top, I'm going to recommend 10%, but you can vary from that, where your engine will run the happiest, because it will live the longest. It will provide you the best service, if you stay in that top band area. And then work a calculation to say, okay, this is my tire size. These are the gears that are available. Which one comes the closest? It will never, I shouldn't say that, because somebody will hit dead on. But most of the time, you will be left with a choice between 2 to 3 gear ratios.
Right.
And then you have to look at that and go, okay, do I want to push it to a slower speed when I'm cruising? Do I want the engine to rev more so I have a more sportier feel, but I'll pay for the gas? And you have to make that choice.
Yeah.
The nice thing about doing all that work is when you get it done, the world works the way you anticipate it, and you really don't have any bad surprises.
Yeah. Well, as I say, just again, the keep your options open. Talk, because again, people they might still email us and say, "Hey, well, you really didn't answer the questions," but what we're trying to get at is that these are questions. There's a lot to it.
And like the key is, it's really your choice. People will make recommendations all day long, and that scares me when somebody goes, "Oh, you need 456s. No, you need 488s. No, you need 513s. Go as deep as you can go."
Yeah, but you don't want to put 513s, because then your pinion gear will look like a toothbrush, which scared the what out of me.
And there's some truth to that.
Well, until someone said, "Scott, you got a Dana 44."
Yeah, you got a Dana 44, not a Dana 30.
Yeah.
So those are all little decisions that you can go. But what I usually do is I start out with figuring out what is my optimum, and then you're starting from a known base.
Yeah.
If you go in there and say, look, I really want this, I really think 488s are the gears I want, or 513s are the gear I want, you can go in to say, rather than just asking a broad question of what gear is the best, you can go to folks and say, okay, what if I get 513s? Where are my risks? What goes wrong with 513s, or what goes right with 513s? You're not asking too broad a question. You're already windowing down. You're becoming smarter, and you're going to make a better choice.
Take a ride with someone else's Jeep geared that way and see how they like it.
See if you can have a conversation in it.
Well, that's a Jeep. You shouldn't be able to anyways.
Well, all right. Well,
this has been a long show.
Okay. Well, we've also had a few pauses, and I think once you get done with the snipper on the audio, it might be a little shorter. So I apologize for running long, folks. And again, email us if you'd like some information or specific to it. I'll do my best to help you out if I can.
Yes.
But I can't tell you what's best for you, because I don't know you. I'm me.
Exactly. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and close the garage. Hold on a second. Alrighty, I got the door coming down now.
All right. Well, as Scott noted, we've run out of time. So enough talking. Time to lock my hubs. He doesn't have to. He's got that automatic fancy stuff. Put the Jeep in 4-low and go out and find a trail somewhere.
Yes, and with all that, like he said, just I want to make sure the camera was working.
So I'm going to finish up.
Yeah.
As always, thanks for spending time with us, even if it was a little long this time. Thanks again to everybody who asked how we were doing after the hurricane. That's deeply appreciated.
Thanks again to our Patreons.
Thanks to Patreons. Thoughts and prayers to those who were affected by Dorian. And as always, wheel legal,
tread lightly,
and take nothing but pictures, memories,
and
of course your trash when you leave the trail. So we're both going to kind of sign off, and
I'm a little distracted. We both have been in the sun all day, and we're both tired. I'm sorry, guys.
But beside that, make sure to check in for our next podcast of On the Trail with Kevin Scott.
Coming live and not at all direct for you, October 1st.
Woo! Getting to Halloween season.
It is, man. My favorite time of the year.
Yeah, it is. You're going nuts with that stuff. So.
I know. But anyways, guys, with that, Patreons, thanks again. Remember, #Dirty30.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.